All right.
Are we expecting anyone else?
Um,
Why?
I think this might be it.
Well, I think Angela might be having
Some
challenges
tech.
with her internet.
Ah, her and the rest of the world. Mine's been super. Oh, now my computer's frozen. Oh.
It seems that I some issues.
Uh,
Okay. Well, we were able to hear you.
Okay.
I think I'm back too. I
So
got
I
disconnected for
think
a
at the
second.
moment I'm just connected with my via voice, but
Yeah,
no
I think
worries.
we. But yeah, I think in Highfield, I don't know if we have met yet, but
Maybe briefly, but not talked too much.
yeah, sure, yeah. It's just that it's hard to remember without the video, but now I remember. So
I can go into Armin's room too.
and then another further.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Lucio.
Hello there.
Hi, everyone. So I think that the goal with this call is to, first of all, just review a little bit, Peter, our last conversation with IAMM, general impressions from it, and to discuss the next steps with it, what we need, and the kind of rules as well that we that might be necessary for moving forward. Am I forgetting
Yeah.
anything? Any other items?
That sounds great.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, first of all, any impressions and comments from the call with Tanner, and maybe we can also give a quick overview for folks that are here and we're not in the call. I'm
Yeah.
having problems opening the Miro board, but maybe we could also share that.
Yeah, I can drop a link in the TE services channel to the Notion page was just recently linked, but I can give a link directly to the meeting notes from the call.
Mm-hmm. That would be great.
Yep. Sorry, my systems are running slow today.
Yeah, but just as a quick context for anyone that wasn't there, last week we had a call with Tanner from IAM, and IAM is, the system that we're in touch with about setting up this MV. The Miro board that is going to be shared here to see if, and just to check in with Tanner and IAM if it would be a good fit for moving forward, and maybe Peter and Angela, you would be able to give a more detailed overview if you think it's needed. And if not,
I can try. Just let me know if you can even hear me. I seem to have a not really stable connection at the moment. We walked
okay.
Tana through some of the scenarios we have been hacking on last week, and we defined, I think, 5 or 6 scenarios that we wanted to go over. and we made it to 3, I think, and 2 are still open. I think it would be good to go over them in this session or in an upcoming session. And we walked Tanner through these scenarios to provide him more details to understand what we are aiming for with the T fundamentals and what this could be and how tracking and value flows might work. And there are some cool ideas regarding certification, actually, that I think we should share. And then also get his feedback on, okay, this is a viable project, first MVP for them as well, for proof of concept for Tana and IAMM, since they are at the moment looking for cases and then are, as far as I understood, which is then, let's say, a prerequisite we should take into account when considering IAMM and next steps. They want to make a decision pretty quickly on a proposal to fund the work on a proof of concept, and they have several projects on consideration, and so the T fundamentals will be one case, and next step should be, I think, in roughly 1.5 weeks to come together and then to actually work on the proposal itself. Peter, anything to add? And Eli?
Let's see. Can you guys hear him? Oh, I'm muted.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me? I've also been
Yeah.
having some issues. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that was a good summary. I guess all that I would add is just like the way that I kind of am seeing the overlap or the relationship, and why it's really exciting for me to have the potential of collaborating with IAMM is like their NFT technology is basically the use case is to kind of map the distribution of knowledge of digital content across a network, and digital content could be the form of any like blog post or video or text document, things like that. And digital content is also what a lot of the education materials would be in the form of, that come out of courses that the TE Academy hosts or posts that people in the TE community make, that just spread knowledge to the community. And so it seems like a really good, it seems like a good fit for what their product could do and what we're looking for. And then once you have those, that sort of like piping, and once you understand how the knowledge has been distributed across the network, then you can do cool things with it, like pass values back through the network to the original contributors, and things like to reward people who've contributed to content in the past. So yeah, that's nothing really new, but just kind of in my own words, I guess, why I think it's an exciting opportunity.
Now, between what we have now and what it seems to be a good, I think that from my impression of what Tanner shared in the call, we have, some work that we need to do in the next couple of weeks for our proposal to be viable with the collaboration with them. So, do we want to just like discuss a little bit of what would that mean to us in terms of also just roles and specific steps? Any thoughts?
Yeah, my My notes from the meeting basically said that his final comment was to focus on one of our scenarios, like the ebook, the Token Engineering Fundamentals course ebook idea, and get an idea of what data we would want to embed into the distribution of that content through a network. Like what information would we want to know about how that ebook is distributed across the network, and then what actions we would want to take with that data. That was kind of my next step, because that would basically help them understand what work they would need to do in terms of actual building, and like what resources they would need to provide to help us do that.
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure with regards to the proposal. So, have we discussed where this proposal should be proposed? So, should it be a T Commons proposal?
Good question. That was kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah, me too. I just realized that we haven't discussed it.
Where else would we propose?
I mean, there would be, I don't know, there would be, I guess, perhaps more options for funding for NFT, POCs, but nothing that I'm aware of right now. It's just we should double check. I think in case it is TE Commons, we should all keep in mind, and maybe that's also important for A, IAMM, and B, for everyone in the team, that the, let's say, funding distribution will still take a while. So, of course, first the proposal needs to get through, and then, but then until, anyone has the chance to receive compensation, I think this will still take a while. I don't know, Livy, if you have any timelines here. My last conversation with Griff was it might be August, September, October.
Yeah, this still makes sense. We're planning to hatch around the 12th, 14th, and that will take 28 days.
Yeah.
Until the Commons upgrade. So I would say at least more 2 months. But that is also like an optimistic timeline.
Yeah. And that's totally fair, but it's just sometimes it feels a bit that the moment you put up a proposal, then everybody is excited. So I get funds, I'm covered, and this might take a while. And maybe it's an important information for Tana as well. On a side note.
Yeah, and have discussed with Center about any funding needs, like what is expected from their end?
Not yet. I think that's a matter of hacking on the proposal itself. Funding needs on both ends, roles, timelines, scope.
Yeah, that was how I understood it too.
Yeah. So do you think that we should we focus on more on that, so the proposal itself, or in the session, I mean, or go back to the ebook use case and start specifying it?
Well, one question that I have, I guess, is regarding other proposal opportunities for funding. Would the proposal, like the proposal required in order to get funding, would that be significantly different between like applying it to the TEC or option B or option C? Because if it's the same proposal, then I guess we kind of just continue down this path and hopefully get some funding earlier than later, and worst case, we have this proposal kind of linger until the TEC is funding pools set up. Yeah, so I guess maybe like would the work to write the proposal be different for proposing it in different spaces?
I'm not sure how much the proposal has changed, but Tanner submitted a proposal months ago when the project was still called Pictosis. But I imagine the core of it is still very similar, and there's probably a lot of that can be used.
Oh, cool.
I mean, from my experience, the writing the proposal itself probably is not that much of an additional effort if you put it up on platform ABC, DAO ABC. The core element, however, in being approved and getting support is interact with the community and being visible. And this is actually communications work, if you want, and then taking part in community calls, prepare some material, maybe set up an event to share plans and things like that, which is really important to gather community support. And that's no question, that's viable and valid for TE Commons as well as other communities. But this is certainly something we should keep in mind. So it's not only writing the proposal and posting it somewhere. But that's actually not a problem. It's just some item on a to-do list.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some more thoughts on, okay, writing, of course, the proposal is not a binding, fully fledged description of the overall project. So there is still room for flexibility in defining the actual outcome and defining the actual value flows. Because this is a matter of exploration, of course, for our community. This is part of the project. So I guess for a proposal itself, there's not. We don't have to have the final details. However, from our conversation with Tana, I think it's super important to have been able to put some more thoughts on it. Some open questions I have, and feel free to add yours. My open question is, okay, there have been some really interesting ideas on the peer learning element, which I think is super valuable and interesting. And maybe the MVP could focus on particularly on this peer learning element and certification. I would love to see that because I think this is a nice combination of TE services and TE Education Academy. However, for the value flows itself, we need this starting point of knowledge creation, and this includes the first pieces of knowledge, like the articles and the videos I've mentioned for TE fundamentals, and then build on that for education, and then go into peer learning. And what we haven't defined yet is the form and format and what we do, like the policies for the NFTs. What are we going to do with this fundamental pieces of knowledge? And here's, I think, is still a gap in our understanding or in our ideation and process of defining this. And so as we're sitting here at this very moment, we don't have any policies in place. We don't know the exact content. We don't know the exact first education policies, and then move on with peer learning. And this is, I think, we maybe shouldn't rush into writing a proposal because we are not really clear about the scope, and that makes it hard to discuss it with Tana. And that's actually not a problem. I would just pledge for, give it some more time, and also be more clear on our end on roles and scope, and then collaborate with IAMM or an alternative solution on a proposal. And then once we've got this proposal signed off, being ready then also to work on it. What do you guys think about that?
And I also just want to note for people that were not in the call that Tanner mentioned that because of just their capacity, they need to choose one pilot to work with. And they're making that decision in about a month, if I'm mistaken.
Or even earlier, I have felt.
Yeah, I think, yeah, he said maybe in a couple of weeks it would be good, for us to get back to them with the proposal. So, yeah, just wanted to mention that because then our decision on rushing this or not. And right now they have one more group that they are in conversation with, and they're a little more advanced, that group.
I'm not sure if I'm understanding everything well, but from the things I've been seeing, what I would love to explore more and to see in the scope is something like praise and source cred and all of the contribution reward systems we have are not being able to grab the value. Like there's still a lot of value that is invisible, that are like people that have been working on very niche things, and the knowledge that is produced from all of these projects and the way it circulates. So I would love if the scope could be something more directed to that, specifically to like within the ecosystem that we have, what is the knowledge that hasn't been rewarded yet.
Okay, and can you give some examples what you have in mind for knowledge we have and hasn't been rewarded?
So I think this has been a conversation in many groups of like understanding the boundaries of the ecosystem we're in, like what are all of the projects that are part of it. Even in this Omega type form that we were passing around, we asked about what were the tools that people used in token engineering. And we had such a diverse range of responses for what were these tools. So even on, the scope of like, what are the tools, what are the methods, what are the models, what are the processes, and who created each one of these things, and how they are integrated between multiple projects, and what from those, what value from those things we are failing to acknowledge, and that has been coming up in the praise conversation, for example, of like, oh, this person and they did this and that, and how come this was invisible? So, yeah, finding those points.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I'm trying to wrap my head around. Okay, how does this fit into the picture? And I just want to first give everyone the chance to comment on that. I'm happy to share what we've been working on last week. Go, there was somebody wanting to.
I really like that idea, and it sounds less like changing the scope of what we're doing and more of just like adding that to the narrative of the proposal. I think it seems like the type of content that Livia is talking about that might have been missed, for example, in some of the other contribution tracking technologies, I guess, that we have, are things like the foundational education content that are really, really, really important to token engineering as a field, but it's the people who've been doing those have been working on those, and maybe not building the TEC, and participating in all the meetings and calls and things like that, in a very visible way. And I actually think that what we want to do here is really filling in and missing one of the missing spots of like recognition or whatever. So yeah, I think it sounds like actually this is a perfect fit for that. And what Livia's mentioning is more of like a narrative as for like why this proposal could add value.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm sorry, but my internet kind of broke at the end of what Livia said. So just to confirm, Livia, what you proposed is that is about value flowing back to people that have been contributing to these conversations. So, for example, with the is it or Omega conversation, Omega conversations, and just some structural questions, or is it something different? Sorry.
No problem. No, what I just messaged from Omega was that we had a type form, and looking at some of the answers about like what people understand as token engineering tools and processes is still very broad and different, and maybe it is broad, and how can we like map all of this processes, tools, and like all that token engineering has built so far, and who does that knowledge it's connected to, and how can we like send streams of reward and recognition to all of these people.
I see. Thank you. And then I think, that takes me back to then what Angela was proposing. And just thinking in terms of scope and timelines around this, because I agree with Peter that this is I think better than a conflict with what we're doing. It just adds to it, and I think it's a stepping stone in the process as well. And my impression is that it would be good for us to have the time to do that and map that process and not rush into a proposal. But I'm curious what other people think about it, also in terms of your capacities in general to really push this in the next couple of weeks or not.
Yeah, I think it's a tricky question because like what I think what this is looking like scoping out to be is something that's super, super valuable for the community. So it should be done. But yeah, it's just a question of like, does that fit with the time? Are we prepared enough to do a proposal already with Tanner? Like, do we need to spend more time hashing it out on our side before we can make a proposal that's meaningful? And then the funding timing question too. But I think no matter what, I would love to see this type of project move forward at some point in the future, and would love to work on it with everyone.
Yeah, me too. So for me, this is not a discussion if we do that. For me, this is no doubt, it's on top of our priorities for TE Academy this year to take an MVP for us, the TE fundamentals, and to get value flows going, no doubt. The only thing is just, okay, my question mark is only on, does it really make sense to now rush into defining, or not even have defined a really good scope for us and then rush into a POC? And honestly, I expect that Tanner just I mean, he has to make sure that he is able to deliver on his side. And if we are not really precise and clear on our scope, I think he won't go with that proposal. So it's not. I think we also should be, let's say, honest, and it's not helpful to anyone, right? If we are not clear on our scope, he's trying to deliver, and we are changing our mind or have just suddenly new requirements, or our roles are not really settled, and vice versa. We can't tell him how we want to define the policies. But in overall, this is not a question if, it's just a question when. And I would suggest to postpone the proposal to August, but not stop working on it. Instead, pushing into having a really great scope and an MVP case, not just an abstract scope, a case where we can see, okay, here's the data flowing. Here we have a piece of knowledge. Here we have a facilitator. Here's the peer learning organizer, contributor, and here's the student. And we have actual cases where we can connect the dots and get the value flowing. And then this way, proof if this is a viable direction to take for the token engineering ecosystem. And then step by step onboard additional cases and additional communities, additional activities, tweak the policies. But this is a matter of months, and start with a particular case. And I want to have this case settled. I'd suggest we plan for August and let Chana know. And perhaps this is totally fine to him. And he'll start with this other pilot, and we'll start our collaboration a bit later.
Curious what we would want to see concretely, like as a actual like output for the proposal, and when that would be relevant, like rather than timing, like once we have X, fill in the blank, what, then we start the proposal. Like what is that item?
Before we start, or as an output deliverable of the proposal, just to understand?
Like what is the trigger that, shifts us into being ready to launch a proposal?
For me, this is having the actual pieces of knowledge. So not just some knowledge, but we mint an NFT for, just to give an example, we mint an NFT for the Token Engineering 101 article from Sargem. We have a certain facilitation element activity. So just take an ebook as an example. And we need this example to be able to derive policies. So what should happen in case this article is used in an ebook in terms of reputation, acknowledgement, in terms of monetary value flows. And next step, what about peer learning? What is the peer learning element and an actual activity going on using this ebook? And a student who then is in some way, we have a proof of learning and some MVP certificate. And we need the policies for all the steps in between, conceptually, and have this full circle between knowledge creation and learning defined. This triggers the proposal, and second, the role. So we need to have a team that is willing to work on it over the next couple of months to deliver on this proposal. And so covering the skills we need: conception, content, project management, tech perspective. That's what I see. Probably you have more. Oh, fundraising could be another element, since we want to get value flows going. So we need an inflow of monetary value, and I think reputation or certification is rather on the conceptual, might be connected with some other external project or something we develop ourselves. And simplest would be a proof of participation or proof of or praise. It could be also praise. We had that in, say, not the actual praise, but we had a social element in electing exceptional contributions in a research group. So we can apply such an element for earning reputation and proof of skills to this value flow as well. So these are the building blocks I have in mind for now we are ready for a proposal. And ready for a proposal to collaborate with, again, just posting and publishing a proposal at T Commons. It's probably no problem because it will take a while until anyone is voting on it. But just to agree with a partner like IAMM, oh yeah, we'll block our calendar, we'll block all our resources to make this a reality. I think then we need those elements on the table to be ready to go. And also to agree on, yes, we want to invest our resources into this project.
The only thing that I would add is that we don't really know what exactly Tanner's or IAMM's criteria would be for the proposal. Like in terms of what we understand their technology and like conceptually how it could be applied to the use cases that we talked about in the last meeting, or like the e-textbook or the article that you're talking about. But maybe they aren't, like in terms of having the peer learning value flows piece flushed out before we're ready for a proposal. Maybe that's not even something that their technology would be able to help with. And so then if they don't need that ready in order to collaborate, maybe it's just enough to like, I guess, just like what maybe their criteria is a little bit lower, and there's a smaller first step that we take with them than we would expect or than we think.
Yeah, I do remember him just mentioned that our scope is a lot smaller than the other project, and that I think that sounded like a positive factor in the decision.
I think it's a viable question to say, okay, what's their area to focus for IAMM and what will be covered or built upon their protocol and what are elements beyond. Of course, we can say, okay, let's check with Tanner, and everything they can't build anyways, we'll just don't consider. I'm just taking the other point of view. What I want to prove with this MVP is closing the circle between learners and teachers. And I can say, okay, it's cool to register an NFT. It's cool to establish some policies. What happens if they are used in this or that way? But I would like to see the full journey down to the student, even if this beyond the scope of IAMM. Then I would rather say, okay, this part is IAMM, and this is our collaboration, and this part is probably expanding praise or source cred, plugging it into this whole ecosystem value flow, and then see how we can make it work. And again, it's an MVP, so there will be a lot of bridges and first preliminary solutions to that, and maybe only parts we focus on with technology, and the rest is bridged via pretty manual work. Like we didn't have algorithms to weight contributions. This was also a manual session to translate it to impact hours, and we might have something similar. However, for this proposal and GE Academy, what will be most valuable to us is closing the circle and not only work on what is suitable to IAMM.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I would totally agree. I think that's like the ultimate goal in order to, um, yeah, closing the circle means, you know, learning on all parts of the value flows from the, like, even on the services side where the value enters the ecosystem all the way through, and the students and the teachers and all that stuff. But at the same time, maybe that's like three MVPs combined into one. And while that is like the ecosystem MVP, there might be like smaller segments of it that we could still get valuable learnings from in the meantime, as we build up like the tech to and the resources to be able to handle an MVP of like the whole loop that you're mentioning. And I guess like no matter what, there's no harm or lost energy really in like bringing what we would be ready to work with Tanner on to Tanner and saying like, you know, I think we would want to be able to handle something up to like the students and the peer learning side of things, but just so you know, the only thing we really have concretely enough right now is, for example, the article that you mentioned, and then NFTing that and seeing how it distributes through the network. And maybe that is what he's interested in helping out with, just that component of it too, even though we're not quite ready with the rest of it. And yeah, just bring that to him and see what he says.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah, I strongly resonate with that. I feel like, you know, value flows are like this big highway system, and capital is like the cars flowing across it, but it's not really relevant to build highways where there's no cars yet. You know, like take a peer learning group using an article. You know, they're not going to flow any capital along that highway. So maybe we just start with, where is the capital entering the system, because that's where value flow is most relevant to start, and then we branch the highway system outward. So, you know, one instance is courses, right? You know, there's capital flowing into the system from courses. So the idea of starting there and flowing value to, you know, at first the facilitators and the people who compiled the courses, and then we could branch out to, hey, you know, we used this article, we used this textbook. Take it sort of sequentially might be a bit simpler or more sane of a process.
Okay. Yeah. Let me just pull up this Miro board we have been working on, so that maybe it's also helpful for everyone to take a closer look on scenarios we have been discussing. And here, can you guys see it? I hope it's not too small.
Yep.
Okay. So what we have here, I just go quickly over it, and then we can at least point our fingers to, okay, this is the scope we see for ourselves at IAMM, and then maybe collect some, okay, have an overview on, okay, what would we need to define and discuss with Tanner to move on and to also feel comfortable with the scope of an MVP. Does that sound good?
Sounds good. And I might need to leave in the middle of it because I have a class starting now. But I just wanted to offer like one piece of framing perhaps for the proposal, which is that, yeah, like I think I don't know if that's the case, but sometimes we take the MVPs very seriously as something that needs to contain the structure that we're going to use in the future. That it needs to be a real tiny piece of what we're going to build in the future. And the way I see it is that it actually is an experiment and an opportunity for us to practice with IAMM, and to basically we learn with each other, and we test their system. We also test what we are trying to get. So yeah, just saying that I think an MVP is a really great place to make mistakes, and to basically fail better, so we can fail even better after that. And I would think of I would just like try to think of a possible doable scenario that it just doesn't need to fit everything that we need, and it doesn't need to even be exactly what we need, but just it's a tool. Just like in science, a hypothesis allows a theory to happen, but the hypothesis is not really the theory, just the medium.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great comment. Okay, let's take a look at this flow here, because I think it's even though we have free flows, it reflects pretty well maybe the full scope of the full circle. We start with where can I have it first? Okay, it starts with here down in the lower area where we have knowledge creators. Knowledge creators are, again, I stick with this example, Sargam writing an article to have a very simple piece of knowledge. It's not a simple piece of knowledge, but it's a simple piece to mint an NFT on, I'd say, because we have it digital. And here's our stock knowledge, foundational knowledge. Then we have facilitators as a next actor in the system, and facilitators consolidate content and make it accessible. And this could result in an ebook, another piece of digital content that can be, we can implement policies how this next piece of content, this next, let's say, here we have already some educational knowledge that is made accessible, maybe combined with other articles, maybe with a certain structure to connect the dots. So we have let's say a transformed version of this initial piece and policies in between. And then next, we have peer learning. This might be the collab that Peter just proposed to TA Commons. So running these sessions and offering joint sessions with more advanced people and with juniors. Work on it, on this content of the ebook. The ebook can provide the structure, or people can even in these peer learning sessions edit the structure and add to this ebook. This would be also possible. All right. And then this would add to the learning space and add, compared to a good like an ebook or the content itself, add some service learning and give and get for everyone involved. And then finally, we have the students. And here you see funding parties. And I guess here's where my push for let's close the circles is coming from. I see we acquired funding for TA Academy in the past. And the moment we have been able to propose that we will have students that are more capable for token engineering roles and projects and tasks, and to make them or help in connecting with these people, and also create visibility for token engineering work, so that projects from the outside world, like projects that are building on balancer pools, get access to people who have knowledge and proven knowledge in this space was the most critical point. So I guess why I'm putting emphasis on, okay, let's close the circle is actually because from this learning, the actual inflow of funding. Now we put aside the proposal itself, because the proposal itself covers the compensation for the people who are building this, right? But not for the actual value flows in the system. And the actual value flows within the system will start flowing once we have funding parties that are interested to compensate the people in between. And I'm convinced that the students will be critical. And fair enough, because education is about students. And this is where I'm coming from if I say I would love to close the circle. However, with Natalia's comment in mind, we still might be able to just cut out, let's say, knowledge creators, facilitators, and transformed version of the original NFTs or additional rights and added value for the original NFT, and making this the scope of the MVP. Fine, so of course we can have a discussion with Tana, but still, then we need to define this one, and at the moment we have just a very rough picture. What do you think, everyone?
I think it's, yeah, I still think we would, regarding closing the loop, I still think that it's worth just talking to Tanner to see what he thinks about this, applying like the collaboration to a not complete system, and just see if that still sounds good to him. I still think we would learn a lot from doing that and just understanding how a piece of content is distributed through a network. I think that would all, like, for sure generate a lot of learnings. The other comment would be around the funding parties. One, I guess I maybe need to hear again how the funding would come through from projects, or like the experience with the balancer thing that you talked about. But another one that might be relatively easy to have happen is from the services perspective. If we can basically just like get a student, or somebody who has gone through the learning process to hold one of these NFTs and then get income from providing services to a project, then that would be another funding party option, I think.
I see. So this is okay.
But that also means like the NFT that the student is holding for completing the peer learning or for completing the course is more representative of like their skill tree. So that also, I don't know, that's a complicated topic too. So, but just another like funding, another different opportunity to get funding to start flowing back through the highway system that the NFT distribution would map out.
So you say, just to check if I got it, you say, okay, there are this, so we are hacking the inflow in this way that we have friendly funding partners, and for the sake of getting a funding inflow, we will find some friendly parties and do not the fully fledged funding inflow cycle with with external sponsors, where you have, of course, much more requirements to meet, it's rather, okay, maybe we together or Longtail or whoever hires a student, puts some money on the table or puts some money into the value flows, and we, simulate the inflow or do it perhaps manually without smart contracts involved.
Yeah.
And connect it at some point with the IAMM part.
Yeah. I don't know if that's like too simple or even practical, but like just for like a really raw example, if you have somebody that has worked on a project with a client and we then set up this NFT infrastructure, maybe they can just say like, hey, by the way, I learned this thing from a TE Academy course and it for sure helped with the work that I was able to do for you. Do you think you could like give me 500 DAI to like fund or to contribute back to the back down the value chain that was set up by creating this material, and that like kind of like a donation sort of from a client? I don't know, maybe that's too simple, but some version of that.
I don't know. We could even, I think, there are ways to hack this, and right. Let's discuss it.
Cool.
What I think what would be cool for the conversation with Tana is, again, being more precise on the scope, being more precise on open questions that still need definition on our end, and roles. Meaning availability, who wants to take over what, expectations, because there is nothing worse than you have a proposal out there, you get a sign off, and then you don't have any team.
Yeah, well, just based on this call, I think there's definitely people interested.
Yeah, that's awesome to see.
Yeah.
It's also important that we can cover all the roles needed. And so, for example, I don't have a clear picture on, okay, we might need somebody on our side to implement the policies, or is this something IAMM wants to take over? And there might be just additional steps, or we need to have a clear picture who does implementation work. And
since I'll soak it up while it's here, I'll start with praising. So we're going to do something a little different this time. We're going to praise ourselves.
I hear the community call.
So you have to start your praise party with two self-praises. That way that we can make sure that
hey, Lauren.
Praise that we all...
I don't know where this is coming from.
I'm confused too.
Everyone sees what I do though, so...
Lauren, I don't know.
I'm gonna try just muting
her. You can just manually mute her.
Really working well, and we're making major advances.
Okay. I muted her from my end.
You just right click.
Yeah, I'm trying. Okay, it's gone.
But I would also love to jump in the community call if we could.
Oh yes, it's already going on.
Yeah, it just started. That's what we were somehow listening to, which was really weird.
Okay. We'll set up, I don't know, next steps asynchronously in the chat.
Cool.
It's the T services. Good. All right. Yep. Thank you all.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.